The work and procedures shown and described in this videotape are intended for people having a fundamental understanding and familiarity with the subject presented in this program. Every possible circumstance that might involve potential hazard could not have been anticipated in the production of this program. The warnings and safety suggestions in this videotape are not inclusive of every situation. You must satisfy yourself that the operations and procedures you use in your situation are safe for you and people around you. Before operating any equipment, review the machine owner manual and become totally familiar with the controls and safety procedures for that particular machine. The makers of this videotape disclaim any liability for injury or damage arising out of attempts to perform the work or procedures shown and described in this videotape. If other materials are used, such as fuels, lubricants, cleaners, or chemicals, precautions for handling should be obtained from container labeling. This program is not a substitute for the owner or operator manual supplied with the machine. Remember, as always, consult your supervisor if you have any questions when operating equipment.
Hi, I'm Paul Latshaw. I've been a golf course superintendent for over 30 years, and in those years I've seen a lot of accidents, foolish accidents, accidents that could have been prevented with a few basic safety precautions and a little common sense. I urge you to pay attention to the information you're about to see on this videotape. The reason you've been asked to watch this tape is because your employer cares about your safety, but he can't protect you alone. It's up to you to understand the differences between safe practices and unsafe ones, and it's up to you to avoid becoming a victim of one of those unnecessary accidents. Mark Michaud, the superintendent of Pebble Beach, has a few words to say about safety.
I'm Mark Michaud, golf course superintendent at Pebble Beach Golf Links. Under the direction of Robert Hedberg, our safety training manager, we have developed a stringent safety training program for the employees of the Pebble Beach Company. As Paul mentioned earlier, common sense and being aware of what is going on around you are key factors to working safely.
How lucky you are to be working on a golf course. While you work, you get to enjoy fresh air, sunshine, the natural surroundings. A golf course can be one of the most beautiful, serene places you can work. However, a golf course can also be a dangerous place if you don't respect the equipment and the substances you work with. Remember that ultimately you are responsible for your own safety, for good judgment, and definitely for common sense.
Along the lines of the point that we're trying to stress, which is common sense, in the past I've seen somebody go out and just go out to mow a bank that was too steep and too damp at the time to be walking on with the shoes that he had on, and slipped and cut a toe off.
Safety is not an option. You can't make it a priority one day, but not the next. Safety must be your priority every minute of every day. Good judgment says if you're not sure whether something is safe or not, you should always assume that it's not. Most accident victims will tell you right before the accident occurred, they had a funny feeling or a sense that something was about to happen. Most people ignore these inner warning signals as being silly. Listen to your instincts. If you feel uneasy, you're not being silly. The last thing your employer wants is for you to get hurt. Your safety is one of your supervisor's top priorities. In and around the maintenance building, neatness counts. Not only does it make us more efficient, but it also makes a safer environment for everyone who enters the maintenance facility. For example, passageways and stairways should be kept clear of rakes, shovels, and other tools to avoid tripping someone. When things are stored by hanging, take care that handles or sharp edges are not hung at eye level, risking someone accidentally walking into them. Piles of oil-soaked rags can pose a serious fire hazard. If left for any length of time, they can spontaneously burst into flame. Dirty rags should be stored properly, according to your supervisor's instructions. Flammable liquids, fuels, chemicals, and other hazardous substances should always be put away in their designated storage area. Not only does neatness make us safer, but because we don't have to waste time looking for things, it also makes us more efficient. Remember the saying, time is money. When working around the maintenance building, there may be times when you have to lift things. It is important to lift correctly to avoid straining or injuring your back. Using your back muscles to lift risks injury, so it is important to know how to use your other muscles for lifting to protect your back. Only lift things you can handle comfortably. When lifting things from the ground, begin with your feet slightly apart. Bend from your knees, keeping your back as straight as possible. Get a good grip on the object and hold it close to your body. Tuck your butt in, tighten your stomach muscles, and lift yourself back up with your legs, keeping your back straight. Avoid lifting things above shoulder level, as this can also cause injury. Use a stool if necessary. When a load is too heavy or awkward, get someone to help you, and always be sure of safe footing and good communication when carrying something with another person. Remember, you only have one back, and taking care of it is your responsibility. Incorrect lifting habits could cause serious long-term injury. When using a step stool, make sure the stool is well grounded on all legs and positioned as close as possible to where you're reaching. When using a ladder, make sure the ladder is securely braced on the ground and that it's long enough so that you don't need to climb all the way to the top, which would seriously increase the risk of falling. Also, don't use metal ladders near electrical lines. A ladder touching the line could cause electrocution. While grinding with a bench grinder is normally the mechanic's responsibility, it bears mentioning here because the grinder can be an extremely dangerous tool. A rotating object is capable of pulling in loose clothing or fingers. Whenever working on or near the grinder, it is imperative that safety goggles or a face shield be worn to protect the eyes from sparks or other objects flying from the grinder. Toxic substances, pesticides, and other compounds can also be extremely dangerous, potentially causing severe personal harm in the event of concentrated or prolonged exposure without proper protection. Toxic substances must be stored according to regulatory guidelines in a properly posted area. Do not handle toxic substances unless you are properly trained and instructed to do so. If you need to approach someone who is spray applying a chemical, signal them from a distance so they can turn the sprayer off and the substance can settle. Then let them walk to you. When you move out onto the golf course, protect yourself from being hit and injured by a golf ball. If your course provides protective headgear, you should always wear it when you're on the course. When golfers are hitting in your area, get yourself out of the way and watch the golfers until the balls have been hit and have safely cleared your area. If you work on a golf course, there's a pretty good chance that you're going to be operating some type of power equipment. Each piece of equipment has its own special training requirements, so an important rule of thumb to remember is this: do not operate any power equipment or tools unless you've been properly trained and authorized to do so. It's your duty to tell your supervisor if you've not yet been trained. Be aware of each product's safety features and don't disconnect any safety feature to get work done more quickly. The risk is not worth it. Most manufacturers will advise wearing hearing protection if you'll be operating power equipment for more than an hour and a half a day that emits a noise level of 80 decibels or more. Check with your supervisor for hearing protection rules at your course. Again, don't be afraid to ask questions. The only dumb question is the one that wasn't asked. Hedge trimmers. Powerful razor-sharp scissor-action blades slice through finger-sized branches in split seconds. The three most common serious injuries by hedge trimmers happen when the operator tries to change hands while the trimmer is running. The operator tries to move branches while the trimmer is running. The operator slips and tries to catch the falling trimmer by the moving blade. You must understand and respect the hedge trimmer's ability to cause disabling injuries in a mere fraction of a second. Always turn the trimmer off before changing hands. Shifting your grip could cause a running trimmer to tip off balance and injure you. Always keep both hands on the trimmer while it's running. Putting one hand out to move a branch is risking serious injury. If other people are present in the area, position yourself so that you can always see exactly where they are and maintain a safe distance from them while trimming. If you're working on a ladder, do not reach beyond your comfortable range of operation. Take the extra moment to move the ladder, even if it is just to reach that one last pass that was just a bit out of reach. String trimmers. They might seem relatively harmless compared to most golf course equipment, but the high-speed monofilament line rotating at up to 200 RPMs can cut through skin in an instant, and debris thrown at up to 100 miles per hour can injure eyes forever. Protect yourself with sturdy work shoes, long pants, eye protection, and hearing protection. Protect those around you by maintaining a distance of at least 20 feet from other people, and always be aware of which direction debris is being thrown so that you and your good judgment are in control of preventing accidents. Blade trimmers. Similar in operation to string trimmers, the blade trimmer carries even greater hazards. With a high-speed steel blade that can throw debris with even greater force and a powerful kickback that calls for the operator's undivided attention and control. When operating a blade trimmer, the same apparel is required: sturdy shoes, long pants, eye and hearing protection. And as always, be fully aware of bystanders and maintain an operating distance of at least 20 feet from other people. Mowers. Probably the most widely used equipment on a golf course. Not only do they cut the grass, but throughout the U.S., mowers are also the cause of over 150,000 accidents every year, most of which could have been prevented with common sense and some basic safety precautions. The four leading causes of mower accidents include contact with rotating blades or reels, usually while clearing debris with hands or feet; propelled objects from rotary mowers, striking an operator or bystander; riding mowers, overturning on steep slopes or embankments; mowers running over the operator's feet, particularly while backing up. Before getting on any power equipment, make sure you know how to shut it off. If you are authorized to perform simple mechanical checks, remember this simple rule. Anytime you want to make an inspection or adjustment with any mower, turn the mower off and wait until it is completely silent. No sound before you do anything. Then look and make sure a part is not coasting silently before touching it.
He attempted to clean the reel that was bound up. And once he freed it, it took his hand right in there with it. So what we're talking here is if he used a little bit of common sense and thought, let's see, let me cut this motor down, and then start from there.
If you are not authorized to perform mechanical checks or adjustments, no matter how simple the problem might seem, call your supervisor or mechanic if you suspect any trouble. If you haven't been trained, there could be dangers you don't even know about. For example, even something as seemingly harmless as removing a small twig from a jammed reel can instantly cut off your fingers. When the reel jams, a certain amount of windup can leave the drive under tension. When the jam is removed, the reels can snap around so quickly Your fingers could be gone before you have time to pull your hand away.
I had one fellow who lost one of his toes from a rotary mower, and I had a fellow who lost his thumb that got caught in a reel. And I always look at those as a blemish on my career, really. I feel bad about those.
Most mowers are equipped with safety interlock systems designed to shut off the mower if the operator is not in the correct operating position. Do not try to disconnect these systems in order to speed up your work. They are there for your protection.
Or he had disconnected the safety switch so he could not have to sit on the machine. So while the machine was in reverse, he actually tried to pull the machine from the water. In doing so, he slipped and his hand got caught up in the reel, and that guy's missing 2 fingers now.
When mowing on steep grades or inclines, take extra care that you have good solid footing. One slip could be deadly. If grass is too wet and slippery, wait until it's dry enough to mow safely, or ask your supervisor for advice.
In the past, I've seen a gentleman go out to mow a bank that was simply too steep and too wet to mow. And unfortunately, he slipped and cut off a toe with the rotary mower he was using.
When operating ride-on mowers or other ride-on golf course equipment, some basic safety guidelines apply. When mowing or traveling on steep grades or embankments, use extra caution. Over half of all deaths related to ride-on equipment are a result of equipment turnovers. Travel slowly and carefully, watching for wet turf, mounds, holes, and other hazards.
But I've seen a case where the axle tends to stick out 3 or 4 inches from both sides, and it catches the flag. So you've got this engaged, real mower that's doing this circle on you, and it takes a little bit to get it back under control.
Travel across steep hills rather than up and down whenever possible. And if something doesn't feel safe, it probably isn't. Talk to your supervisor about alternative ways of handling these situations. On equipment furnished with a rollover protection structure, also known as ROPS, always wear a seatbelt to keep yourself in the seat in the event of a turnover. On equipment that does not have a ROPS, you should not wear a seatbelt so that you can jump free in the event of a turnover. On tractors, the power takeoff, or PTO, is the most dangerous part of the tractor. At 1,000 RPMs, a PTO catching any loose clothing will twist it up at a rate of 8 feet per second, posing risk of serious injury. An unused PTO should be kept capped at all times. When operating golf cars and utility vehicles, keep the speed low to maintain control of the vehicle. Take only as many passengers as the vehicle is designed for, and remember, 3-wheel vehicles are less stable on inclines or during sharp turns. Make slow, wide turns and avoid steep grades.
Well, this young guy, who was actually new on this particular crew, if I recall, had one of our larger Cushman. And the majority of them have only one wheel in the front, which makes steering just a tad bit different and a lot more delicate when it comes to bumps and ruts in the cart paths or what have you. And he hit a rock or something, and it literally flipped this cart end over end, leaving him trapped underneath the bed of the cart upside down.
Maintenance equipment and substances aren't the only things that require safe practices on the golf course. The natural world calls for certain safety precautions as well. Take poison plants, for example. There are irritants such as nettles, which will cause an instant reaction, pain and swelling on contact. There are allergens such as poison ivy, which can cause severe allergic reactions, potentially disabling an allergic person for up to several weeks. Learn what poison plants in your area look like, and if you see a poison plant, don't touch it. Report its location to your supervisor. And of course, never eat any fruit or berries growing around the course. Some berries are toxic enough to cause severe illness or even death. You should also be aware of insects native to your area. Nationwide, over 250 deaths per year are attributed to bees, wasps, yellow jackets, and poison ants. If you know you are allergic, tell your supervisor in advance so that he will be prepared to take emergency action if necessary, and avoid work assignments in high-risk areas. While bees are important for pollination and other insect control, low-lying nests in high-traffic areas should be reported to your supervisor for possible extermination. A deer tick is no larger than the head of a pin, yet it can infect its victim with Lyme's disease. Left untreated, Lyme's disease can cause chronic arthritis, neurological and cardiac impairments. In areas with high deer population, the risk is increased. Only enter heavily vegetative areas when absolutely necessary, and when you do, wear long-sleeve shirts and pants, gloves and hat to avoid exposed skin. If a tick becomes attached, remove it carefully with the tweezers, being sure to get the head. If a rash develops in the area, advise your supervisor and see a doctor immediately. Poison snakes fall into 3 major groups: coral snakes, copperheads and cottonmouths, and rattlesnakes. If poisonous snakes live in your area, learn about their habitat and use extra care when working in places where snakes are likely to frequent. If you must work in these areas, wear high-top, heavy work boots, pants, long sleeves, and gloves. Noise generally frightens most snakes away, so give warning as you enter a potentially infested area. If you do see a snake, just leave it alone. Over 80% of all snake bites occur when someone tries to capture a snake. If you work in a southern area where alligators might be present in your golf course waters, simply leave them alone. Alligators are typically afraid of people and generally will go out of their way to avoid people. Never feed an alligator, or it will learn to associate food with humans and will have to be destroyed. What about the weather? Prolonged exposure to direct sunlight, particularly between the hours of 10 and 3, increases your susceptibility to skin cancer. When working for extended periods in the full sun, wear protective clothing such as long sleeves and wide-brim hats. And make it a habit to use a high SPF sun protection factor sunscreen every day to protect yourself from sunburn and to reduce the risk of skin cancer. On extremely hot days, be aware of signs of heat exhaustion or heat stroke, such as dizziness, elevated temperature, rapid pulse, confusion, headache, and nausea. If you experience any of these symptoms, immediately get to a cool area. Slowly drink cool fluids and apply wet towels to promote cooling down. Lightning. Golf courses are natural targets for lightning with their wide open areas, tall lone trees, and ponds. If you sense a storm coming on, don't wait until the last minute. Get inside right away. There is no excuse for waiting. Ask your supervisor about the best places on your course to seek protection from lightning in the event that you get caught in a sudden lightning storm far from any buildings. A general rule of thumb is to seek low depressions in the ground, such as low-lying bunkers, and to avoid lightning targets, such as isolated trees, bodies of water, or anything metal. Again, there is really no excuse for getting caught off guard. When you're out on the course, it is your responsibility to keep an eye on the weather.
Responsibility. That's what it's all about. You are the one who is ultimately responsible for your own safety, for using good judgment, for plain old-fashioned common sense. If you notice an unsafe condition, correct it, or bring it up to your supervisor. It could be as simple as moving a rake out of a traffic area or reporting an out-of-order smoke alarm. Taking responsibility means you and your coworkers will enjoy a safer, healthier work experience. Stay alert.